Hello, it's David Allen and you are watching Sporting Icons.
Right, so I'm going to go through the entire card for OLEKSANDR USYK versus Tony Bellew. And of course the main event will be for the Undisputed Cruiserweight World Titles plus Ring Magazine. And this will be happening in the Manchester Arena in Manchester, of course, this Saturday, November the 10th. So the undercard is actually very, very good. And you see, this is why I like a lot of the Matchroom shows. And people will say, why are you such a Matchroom fanboy? It's not that I'm a Matchroom fanboy. It's that, in my opinion, Matchroom put on the best undercards. I don't just look at the main event and then just look at the rest of it as padding. I look at the main event and the entire card. What am I interested in? And a lot of the times I'm interested in the undercard. And this one's no different. Now, there are a couple of fighters on here that I'm presuming are part of K2. For those who don't know, OLEKSANDR USYK is promoted by K2 and Matchroom Boxing, so it's a dual promotion. And this will be his Matchroom Boxing debut, if you like. And I think he has another 2 or 3 fights after this one with Matchroom as well. And a couple of guys on here, I'm only presuming that they're part of K2 because they're definitely not part of Matchroom Boxing. And just on their names as well. So anyway, we'll go through the entire card. I'll give you my thoughts on each of the fights and what I know about them and all that kind of good stuff. And of course, drop your thoughts below and subscribe if you haven't already. So we're going to go through it all in the order of play. So we're going to start from the bottom, the opening fight, and work our way up to the main event. So heavyweight, Alexandros Kartozia. He's currently 6-1. He's from Greece. Out of his 6 victories, he has stopped 5 of those opponents, but as of right now, he still doesn't have an opponent officially announced. Maybe that'll happen today, tomorrow, who knows when it's going to be. But again, I'm presuming he's part of K2 because he's definitely not part of Matchroom. Or who knows, maybe he will be. I don't know. I think that Eddie Hearn has signed so many fighters lately for DAZN and what have you that it's quite difficult to keep track of everyone. So he should be on the opening bout. And I'm presuming that this kind of fight you'll probably catch on YouTube. Because Sky Sports do the fights up until around about 6:30, 7 o'clock on the YouTube Sky Sports boxing app, and then they'll switch on to TV, and of course that'll be on Box Office. So that's the first fight. Second one will be a 6th rounder at middleweight with Dmitro Mitrofanov. Now he is 2-0, and he's only stopped 1 opponent. He's quite young. I think he's what, 28 years old. He's from Ukraine as well, so again that's why I'm presuming that he's part of K2, as K2 do have a lot of Ukrainians, Russians, Belarusians, these kind of guys. And anyway, he's going to be taking on a guy called Gino Canters, who is 5 wins and 2 defeats. I've never seen either of these guys fight, but this Canters, he's from Holland, and out of his 5 victories, he stopped 3 of his opponents, and out of his 2 defeats, he's been stopped once in himself. So that will be, again, one of the fights that you will probably imagine is going to be on the Sky Sports Boxing YouTube. Now, again, I don't know any of the fighters that I've just mentioned. Okay, so now we're going to get into the ones that I do know. And I'm very, very happy that this fight has been made. Sam Hyde, nowhere to hide, going up against Richard Riakporhe. Sam Hyde is 13-0 with 1 draw, and Richard Riakporhe is 7-0, and this will be for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Cruiserweight title. Now, I always thought that Richard Riakporhe was a super middleweight, but I guess not. So anyway, unless of course he's just moved up, who knows. So anyway, starting with Sam Hyde, nowhere to hide. He's 25 years old. He's from Sale in Cheshire, and out of his 13 victories, he's stopped 6. So he's got almost a 50% stoppage record, I suppose. And this is a big, big step up for him. I mean, out of the guys that he's fought so far, don't really know who they are too much. The records would suggest that they're all journeymen, although he has defeated 1 or 2 undefeated guys as well, who were also coming up through the ranks in themselves. But very, very good fighter. If you've never seen him before, please go check him out. And Richard Riakporhe, very, very good friends with Dylan White and Spider Richards and all those kind of lads down there. And he's from Walworth in London. Now, he is 7-0, but 6 of those by stoppage. And again, this is be a huge, huge step up for him. against Sam Hyde, 2 undefeated fighters. And again, this goes back to the whole Matchroom boxing, what I like, because they put some of their up-and-comers in together, okay, to see who's going to come out on top. So this is why I really like this fight. Both these guys are very, very good prospects, no doubt about it. And I'm predicting a very, very good fight, and it wouldn't surprise me if this goes the distance or a late stoppage for one of these guys a bit later on in the fight. But it's a real pick 'em for me, it really is. I mean, Sam Hyde certainly got the more experience in the pro game, but Richard Riakporhe, obviously with training with Dillian Whyte and etc., then you know, he's getting some good rounds in with Spider Richards, with who's a light heavyweight, of course, plus all the other ones. So very good fight. I like this fight. Keep your eye out for this one. The White Rhino, Dave Allen. Of course, he's going to be fighting on this card, and of course, December the 8th. On the Kell Brook undercard as well, and only a couple of weeks ago here in Newcastle, again, he fought there as well, so he's keeping very, very active, and he's doing a 10-rounder against a guy called Ariel Sebastian Bracamonte. I don't know who this guy is, but he is 8-1. He's Argentinian, and out of his 8 wins, he has stopped 5 of his opponents. So he's pretty decent power. He's a youngster, he's 25 years old, but with Dave Allen, he's on a bit of a roll. Lately, of course, he beat Nick Webb, then he beat the German guy, which I forgot his name, Nero, whatever his name is, here in Newcastle. So he's looking real good, and he wants to keep that momentum going as well. And he's got the bit between his teeth. He really wants to get cracking. And of course, when I was chatting with him here in Newcastle on a couple of occasions, real nice lad, and very focused. He's actually making a real go of his career. Now, all of his losses with Dave Allen have all been against guys that you could probably argue he shouldn't have really been in the ring with, considering he had virtually 0 amateur experience. Dillian Whyte, he should never have been in there with him. Luis Ortiz should never have been in there with him. And Tony Yoka, of course, former Olympian and whatever, again, argue he probably shouldn't have been in there. But Dave Allen is as brave as a horse. He really is. He's like a mule. He will just step in the ring with literally anybody. And I'm going to favour him to win this one, purely because he's just got that mean streak about him now. He's a real nice guy, but when the bell goes, it's just business. And I'm looking forward to seeing Dave Allen. And again, with him being on the Kell Brook undercard on December the 8th as well in Sheffield. And then after that one, I would probably expect him to be going in there with the likes of Lucas Brown, etc. So anyway, it's a tick-over fight, but clearly this guy is Ariel. He's got something about him. Okay, so out of his 8 victories, 5 stoppages, so he's definitely got some decent power. But of course, Dave Allen's last opponent at Nemo, he, out of his 10 victories, he stopped all 10 of them, and Dave Allen knocked him out in the very first round with some vicious body shots. So anyway, I'm fully expecting Dave Allen to go in there and just do a job on this guy. So another one, Ricky Burns versus Scotty Cardle. That's a newly announced fight. And again, very surprising, as Ricky Burns, he's going to be on, or allegedly at least, according to the papers, that he's going to be on the Miller undercard, which is next weekend as well, over in America, in Kansas. But either way, Ricky Burns, he's going to be going up against Scotty Cardle. A lot of you guys know Scotty Cardle. He's been around a little bit, 23 wins, 2 defeats, 1 draw. Now, of course, one of those defeats was, of course, against Lewis Ritson. Ricky Burns, former world champion. He's been around for a long time. Some say he should have given up for I don't know, a little while ago. But he's still got that thing in him which motivates him. And this is a real 50-50 fight. And I'm not kidding when I say it. But for me, Ricky Burns versus Scotty Cardle is a real 50-50 fight. And I'm certainly looking forward to it. And my neighbour, Josh Kelly. He's going to be on this card as well in a 10-rounder. Last time he fought was here in Newcastle. 5-6 months ago now, where he was in the main event and he won the Commonwealth welterweight world title. And he's going to be going up against a guy called Walter Fabian Castillo. Now, Castillo, he's 13-2, but he's only stopped 3 of his opponents, so you could probably argue he's a little bit pillow-fisted, of course, but he's quite young, 25 years old, from Argentina. Now, he hasn't been in with too much great opposition, or I say great, I'm being a bit unfair because I don't actually know who they are, but just looking at the records of some of the people he's been in with, he's done all right. He's done pretty well, actually. So, but again, Josh Kelly, he's got this style that's just awkward, and he's just so skillful. I wish he'd put his arms up a bit, his hands up a little bit to protect himself, but he just likes to go in there and just trade. That's what he does. He likes to pick off his opponent, find a weakness, and just get him out of there. And sometimes he messes about, and I'm fully expecting him to be messing about in this fight if it's going to go how I think it's going to go. But I believe that Josh Kelly will dispatch him in the very first half of the fight, at least anyway. And the co-main event, the chief support, Anthony Crolla, the local lad from Manchester. He's going to be going up against DAZN, and this will be a 12-rounder and the final eliminator for the WBA World Lightweight title. Now, DAZN, he's 38 wins with only 3 defeats, so certainly pretty good, right? Anthony Crolla, 33 wins, 6 defeats and 3 draws. But it's as of late, over I'll probably say the last 2 to 3 years, that he's really started to come on, and his career has really just set alight. He does have back-to-back defeats against Jorge Linares, and he does have a victory over Ricky Burns, of course, former world champion in himself, and Anthony Crolla. So again, this one will be for the WBA World Lightweight title, the final eliminator, who is currently occupied by Vasyl Lomachenko. So the winner of this fight is next in line to take on Vasyl Lomachenko. Hopefully, if Anthony Crolla wins this one, Eddie Hearn can put up enough money together to bring Lomachenko to the UK. I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic to see Crolla versus Lomachenko here in the UK, maybe at the Manchester Arena, the O2, who knows what it will be. But I fully expect Anthony Crolla to do it. I don't expect Crolla to knock him out. I expect this to go the full 12 rounds, to be honest with you, and Crolla to win by quite a wide margin. But there again, how much does Anthony Crolla have left in the tank? For me, he's a quality fighter, and I expect him to do this with relative ease, to be fair. And then we come to the main event, Alexander Usyk versus the bomber, Tony Bellew, the guy that nobody should ever write off, but people will continue to do so. And it has become a bit of a meme lately, where people say, well, I think that the opponent for Tony Bellew is going to win, but we can't write off Tony Bellew. This seems to be the norm right now. And this is no different. Of course, this is for the Undisputed Cruiserweight World titles, including Ring Magazine. And if Tony Bellew was to get the win on this one, you'd have to consider him a pound for pound. This fat scouser, a pound for pound superstar is what he will be. Now, Tony Bellew, he's come off back-to-back wins over David Haye. First one is a little bit iffy, obviously, because David Haye, he injured his Achilles, but the rematch was conclusive, where he just beat the hell out of David Haye and retired him, is what he done. And Tony Bellew's got a real superstar status about him. He is pay-per-view. I know that there's like a lot of people out there going, well, how did Tony Bellew be pay-per-view? What's the criteria? He should never be pay-per-view. He's pay-per-view because he's popular. It's a very, very simple answer. If you're popular, that means people are going to pay for you. That makes you a pay-per-view star. He is the WBC Cruiserweight champion in Emirates. So he has every right to be challenging Alexander Usyk. Because again, a lot of people saying, well, why is Tony Bellew getting an opportunity against Usyk? As I just said, he's WBC Emirates champion. So he never actually lost his belt in the ring. He vacated it to help the Cruiserweight division move on. So that's why he's given this opportunity. And of course, Alexander Usyk, he wants what Tony Bellew's got. Tony Bellew's got the name, he's got the brand, and he brings the money. He's pay-per-view. Alexander Usyk, by not only beating Tony Bellew, but dominating him in very, very good fashion, makes Alexander Usyk a huge, huge star, where boxing is booming right now, and that's the UK. And ultimately, who knows, towards an Anthony Joshua fight. This will be Alexander Usyk's last fight at Cruiserweight. You can guarantee it, win, lose or draw, he'll move up to heavyweight after this one. And this is where a lot of people think that Usyk is really going to come into his own. As if he hasn't already, right? Former Olympian, won every damn trophy and belt that there possibly could be at amateur, and he's done exactly the same at Cruiserweight in only 15 fights. Of course, the Muhammad Ali winner, Muhammad Ali trophy for the World Boxing Super Series, and he's won every single title that there is to win at Cruiserweight. He could have just vacated it and moved straight up and got into a super fight at heavyweight, but no, he wants to do it the right way, which is by beating somebody here in the UK that has got all that, so then he then becomes a replacement for that person. And getting a Tony Bellew on your resume is a very, very good thing, especially with the way Tony Bellew's going on lately, obviously beating Makabu to become the WBC Cruiserweight champion, then defending it against BJ Flores, and then back-to-back wins over David Haye. He's pay-per-view, and he is a superstar, whether Tony Bellew wants to admit it or not, he is. And Alexander Usyk needs what Tony Bellew's got. Now, Tony Bellew has every advantage in this one as well, being that he's at home. But at the flip side of that, Alexander Usyk, he's always travelling. He's a travelling man of sorts, okay? He will go to your backyard and beat the hell out of you. And the only fight that I've really seen Alexander Usyk really in trouble with, for me, that was against Marius Briedis. And it's arguable that Briedis won that fight. And as I said, it's arguable. But in the final of the World Boxing Super Series against Murat Gassiev, who was 26-0 at the time, he just dominated him. He won every single round. I mean, for me, I would struggle to give Gassiev a round, maybe 2, if I was being really, really generous. And that shows the quality of Alexander Usyk. But how's he going to get on with the atmosphere in the UK, as it's going to be very, very pro-Bellew? Now, Manchester is not Bellew's home ground. Of course, he's from Liverpool, but it's close enough. It's the north. So he's going to have a huge, huge fan base there. And as much as people love Usyk, we really do love Usyk, and we love all boxers, okay? And we always give them respect. But when you're going up against one of our own, for those 36 minutes, you are the enemy. And I've got a feeling that it's going to be very, very hostile for Alexander Usyk. How's he going to cope with that? Well, history would say pretty well. Because as I said, he's always travelling to other people's back gardens. You know, he's gone to Latvia, he's gone to Russia, he's gone everywhere and picked up trophies along the way. So I don't think it's going to faze him too much, but it might well do, because this can be a very, very hostile crowd, I'm predicting. But at the same time, Tony Bellew, he does have a few critics himself who will be turning up just to watch him lose. And that's just how it is. And this will be Tony Bellew's last fight as well, by all accounts. But he says that he wants Usyk to beat the fight out of him. Obviously not beat him, but beat the fight out of him. In other words, drag him into the later rounds and beat him up. So he doesn't want to fight anymore after this one. For me, I think if Tony Bellew goes in there and blasts out Usyk in the first couple of rounds, then I think Bellew will go on. I think he'll defend his titles against a guy who has beaten him. The only guy that Tony Bellew's been in with, lost to, and hasn't managed to avenge that defeat in Adonis Stevenson. I would fully expect that fight after. No matter what his wife says, or Eddie Hearn says, or Dave Coldwell says, I think Tony Bellew will want to erase that from his resume. I really do. If he loses, again, I think he may well go, you know what, I don't want to go out on a loss. But ultimately, we have to wait and see how this fight happens. Alexander Usyk is the favourite, no doubt about it. And he should be the favourite. He's earned the right to be the favourite. Tony Bellew is never the favourite for virtually any fight that he takes on. I'm not even too sure if he was the favourite against BJ Flores, to be perfectly honest. But you know what? Tony Bellew is, you could argue, an overachiever. And he'd probably be in agreement with that. But it's his heart, it's his will, and it's his boxing brain that gets him through the fights. It really is. I mean, for him, he could break down any fight. And how often do you see Tony Bellew wrong with his predictions? Very, very rare. Very, very rare. So, very, very tough fight. Again, most people would favour Alexander Usyk. I would probably have to agree with that one. But I do believe that Tony Bellew, if he can get Usyk into the late rounds or surprise him early, then he may actually get out with a knockout. I think Tony Bellew can knock out Alexander Usyk. Tony Bellew's got a very, very nasty left hook. And if he catches Usyk with it, then I would fully expect Usyk to go down. If Usyk doesn't come down and just smiles, keeps going forward, then you know what, Dave Coldwell may as well throw in that white towel, because I don't see Tony Bellew beating Alexander Usyk on points at all. But hey, who knows? Who knows? I mean, this will be Tony Bellew's last fight, so he's going to go out with full emotion, balls to the wall, and do everything that he can to win. And you know what? I hope that he does win. I like Alexander Usyk. I respect him a lot, and there's lots of fights that I want to see Usyk in going forward. But I do want Tony Bellew to win this fight. And he can do it. So I'm actually going to pick Tony Bellew to beat Alexander Usyk. He's either going to stop Usyk in the first 3 rounds, or he'll stop him in round number 9, 10 or 11. If it goes into the 12th, Usyk will win on points. But it's one of those fights, I really don't know who's going to win. I agree with people who say that Alexander Usyk is the favourite, and there's a very good chance that Usyk could just go in there, dominate Bellew, and stop him. Could happen. Very could happen. And I think I'm picking Bellew to win, more on emotion, more than boxing head, I think is probably the right word. So anyway, that's all mine. That's the entire event. And as I said, Sky Sports box office this weekend for those of you guys in America on DAZN. If you don't have DAZN, you may as well get it for free. Your first month is free, all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.